Good evening and welcome to Newsmax Prime. I'm J.D. Hayworth. Of prime interest tonight, terror attacks yesterday over there, tomorrow over here. What can America do to prevent them? While Belgian authorities ID two of the Brussels bombers and search for the third, here at home, Senator Ted Cruz insists we must increase surveillance of Muslim enclaves in the U.S.
What I'm talking about is focusing law enforcement and national security resources on areas, on locations where there is a higher incidence of radical Islamic terrorism.
President Obama continues his travels outside our country. Earlier today in Argentina, the commander-in-chief insisted that defeating ISIS is his top priority, but maintained his rhetorical posture as apologist-in-chief for Islam.
There's no more important item on my agenda than going after them and defeating them. The issue is, how do we do it in an intelligent way? Any approach that would single them out or target them for discrimination is not only wrong and un-American, but it also would be counterproductive.
For more on the story, we're pleased to be joined now by Ambassador R. James Woolsey. Jim, the former Director of Central Intelligence, today serves as Chairman of the Leadership Council for the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, as well as the Chancellor at the Institute of World Politics. Jim, as always, we appreciate your time on Newsmax Prime. Turkey reveals, it's good to be with you, especially under these trying circumstances. Turkey now reveals they arrested one of the Brussels bombers in June, deporting him back to Belgium, even though they warned him he was a militant. They warned the Belgians about this. Is this just part of a compounding of intelligence failures?
Well, it could be that. It could be some rules that were set in a indecipherable way. It's hard to tell because keeping track of everybody in this age that we are now living in is an extraordinarily demanding task, and nobody's really going to succeed in doing that if they try. You have to try to keep track of people who are really seriously likely to do damage, and you're going to miss some. And it may be because your system doesn't have the technology it needs, the kind of recognition of irises and so forth. Or it may be that you have not gotten high quality enough people running the referral system or the police system. It could be any of a range of things, but part of what it is if we try to do everything by keeping track of what's going on for the Turks inside Turkey, for us inside the U.S., etc., we're going to fail because ISIS will not move until it's ready, and it will get ready either in other countries or with information from the Mideast, let's say. And that's not really self-radicalization, such as the husband and wife out in California who killed a bunch of their party guests and then killed themselves. It's not just that. It's that people need to spend some time in figuring out what to do to destroy ISIS where ISIS was born and now thrives.
And with that in mind,
namely,
Jim, we got to take the fight to them, but here's the other problem. As this is going on, NBC reports that sources believe that these ISIS attacks have really just begun. A top official in the UK government agrees that a big attack is likely. Has ISIS reached the operational readiness just to hit anywhere and everywhere?
Well, it's entirely possible. They like frequency. If you look at one of the papers today, I think it's Wall Street Journal, it runs through for the last week or 10 days the terrorist incident every day, somewhere in the world, almost all of them radical Islamist. So you have a drive for frequency, and you have a drive particularly for these types of terrorists to come at us on any kind of anniversary, a date that is historically important to us or them. I'm worried, for example, about Easter and potential disruption of religious ceremonies, say in Rome. There are just a lot of things that drive them, but they could be, yes, on an accelerating path.
So it bears amplification. What you just offered there as an example, the possibility that something might happen at the Vatican in Rome on Easter Sunday. That certainly gives people pause. And back here in this country, Senator Ted Cruz, of course, suggested that domestically we're going to have to step up surveillance of Muslim neighborhoods. Now, this has kind of become a political football because New York Police Commissioner Bill Bratton reacted strongly to Senator Cruz's comments. Let's look and listen.
I would remind the senator he lives in the United States of America. And the statements he made today is why he's not going to become president of this country, as we don't need a president that doesn't respect the values that form the foundation of this country.
For his part, Senator Cruz basically called Bill Bratton a political henchman of the leftist mayor there. Has this thing just become mired in politics rather than really dealing with the root problems?
Well, from what Senator Cruz had originally said, I don't think it is accurately characterized by Commissioner Bratton's statement. If you look back at the years immediately after 9/11, in which Rudy Giuliani and then later Mayor Bloomberg and all along Ray Kelly stepped up the surveillance of Muslim areas in New York, among other things, the so-called broken glass syndrome and so on, the very vigorous policing. They probably paid more attention to some of the folks hanging out around the mosques than they paid attention to Catholic churches where there were lots of folks from, let's say, southern Italy. Because back 20, 30, 40 years ago, a place where people from southern Italy congregated might be a reasonable candidate for the folks in The Godfather. And so you might spend more time looking at those neighborhoods.
So it depends on the threat.
Yeah. It depends.
Yeah, understood.
It depends on the threat.
Yes, absolutely. And with that in mind, our parent website, Newsmax.com, has detailed the top 8 terror targets when what we've seen from government and media sources. And here they are briefly, Jim. Americans traveling abroad, New York City, London, cruise ships, shopping areas, airplanes, churches and synagogues. You mentioned the Vatican, Easter Sunday, and schools. I guess all of those targets keep intelligence officers up at night with concern, do they not?
Yeah, they really do, because as long as ISIS is functioning over there in Iraq and Syria, and partly because of our withdrawals and the weakness that the United States showed in the president first saying that he was drawing a red line and the Syrians should not dare to use chemical weapons against their own population, and then they did it, and he more or less shrugged and turned the problem over to Russia. When you have situations and things occur like that, we're not being taken seriously by a lot of people.
And obviously, we have to take all of this very seriously. Ambassador R. James Woolsey. Jim, thanks again for your time tonight here on Newsmax Prime.
Good to be with you, JD.